You're now watching the Danny Mac Podcast on the Bet Rivers Network.
So the Thomas Brown era did not exactly get out of the gate like a comet, did it? Yikes. The Bears lose again. I'm Dan McNeil. Thank you for joining me for a post-game edition of the Danny Mac Podcast here on the Bet Rivers Podcast Network, and I hope you enjoyed NFL Sunday in Week 14, despite the outcomes, as Jack Brickhouse said many years ago, and I was so eager to see what the reaction would be if there was a performance that went the other way, because I was fully expecting everybody locally to start beating the drums for Thomas Brown to continue as the Bears head coach. And it would come from the locker room first, and from there the media would run with it, and everybody would think, yes, this is the right thing to do. I don't. I think you need a guy with head coaching experience unless you have an extremely capable coordinator like Ben Johnson, who has proven for several years he has the offensive mastermind to take Caleb Williams to the next level. The final is 38-13. The Bears had 4 yards of offense in the first half. They finished with 162. 4 yards of offense total. They had 17 snaps in the first half. Only had 10 minutes of possession time. Wow, that is really a shitfest of epic proportion, and nobody in his right mind would say tomorrow, yeah, this is the guy who needs to be the next man in charge. I point to Wayne Fonts of the Lions, more recent memory, Mike Quaddy of the Cubs, who was given an opportunity after doing a decent job as an interim. It doesn't mean everything. Defensively, Thomas is also responsible for the outcome. And the Bears defense was not good Sunday at Levi's Stadium, south by about 30 minutes of San Francisco. Santa Clara is the name of the town. I don't know why so many locals can't commit that to memory. Pretty simple. The 49ers, with that quick passing game, Brock Purdy was sacked only once. TJ Edwards, who led the Bears in tackles and has had a good year, was the only guy who got to him. He gets rid of the ball so quickly, so you don't have a ton of opportunities. He was 20 of 25, but I got a kick out of the second half. After the Bears took the ball and went down the field with a very nice drive to finally get something to show for it on the first touchdown reception of Rome Odunze's big day, and then Cole Kmet drops a beautiful bullet on a slant for the 2-point conversion. So they come away with only 6. On the subsequent possession, Purdy threw a ball to Jennings, who he had a big day today. Did Juwan Jennings, number 15. He had the longest play from scrimmage in the game of 39 yards, 7 catches for 90 and 2 touchdowns total. But he runs a short slant in the first series the Niners have on second down, and Jalen Johnson makes a beautiful play, and he gets his left hand extended and knocks the ball away and starts talking trash at Jennings, the receiver, after Purdy had completed 16 of his first 18. Dude's got 250-ish yards in the first half and 2 touchdowns, and they ain't knocked him down yet. And Jalen Johnson wants to chirp at him. Okay, he had a good game today. It's good. There were some guys who didn't have a good game, and the 49ers ran the ball pretty well, even without Christian McCaffrey in the lineup, even without Trent Williams. And yes, this also falls on the head coach. He is an offensive coach, but he is responsible for everything, just as the defensive coach, Matt Eberflus, was responsible largely for the lack of development in the first month of the season of Williams. He's responsible for all of it, including the kicking game and Torrey Taylor, a 60-yarder today. Nice job. Dilly bars for the Bears, because Taylor has been their most consistent first-year performer. And I'm a Williams guy. Today was not his best game again. They start slow. He started slow. I thought they were going to be able to at least run the ball a little bit. The offensive line was healthy. And the long run of the day today for DeAndre Swift, who carried the ball 14 times, was 8 yards. 8 yards is the long run. Caleb Williams rushed 4 times, and his long run of 10 was the longest of the day. Odunze's second touchdown reception after the turnover, when Caleb Williams was ruled to have fumbled after it seemed like he had thrown the ball forward fashion. And Kenny Albert and Jonathan Vilma did a nice job explaining it on Fox, similar to the tuck rule. The ball was coming back toward his body, therefore possession reestablished, and it's ruled a fumble. But Odunze's 17-yard touchdown reception to cap the Bears scoring, their second TD of the day and only TD, is their long play of the day. 17 yards is their long play of the day. The Niners had the 39-yarder to Jennings. George Kittle had a 33-yard catch. Jennings had a pretty nice reception. I mentioned that. Garendo, the running back, who was very effective and had a couple rushing touchdowns, also had a 27-yard catch. Just 2 targets, 27 and 23-yard receptions for their second string running back. And Deebo Samuel also had a long catch of 20, one of just 2 catches today for Deebo. So the 49ers are missing Williams, they're missing McCaffrey, and they dominate the game. They dominated the Bears defense. Only 1 sack for the Bears defense. Montez Sweat did not get it. He did have a solo, and you don't get there every week. TJ Watt didn't get there today for the Steelers. Myles Garrett got there today only once for the Browns. Those guys both play a lot more percentage of snaps than Sweat does too, but you're not going to get there every week. The only improvement from the Bears today, necessarily from a head coaching standpoint, was they only had 2 penalties. That's the high end. That's it. I don't have anything good to say about their offense, other than the fact that they didn't lie down in the second half. They pulled up their bootstraps, as they say, and went to work and had a very nice 9-minute drive to start the third quarter. And then had another nice drive after the turnover drive. If it weren't for the turnover, right? In just a second, I'm going to tell you who the Bears are most interested in for the head coaching position. It's my understanding they are down to 4. They have 4 guys they most want to hire right now. It's not to say it won't change, but I'll give you that list in just a second. First, I want to tell you about what happens if you do well at Bet Rivers when you play the same game parlay. Pick 2 or more in the same game, and you do whatever you want. You check the odds, you change the numbers, and if you score, you hit all of them, you can win squares that are worth bonus bets, profit boosts, and jackpots of up to $10,000. It's the same game parlay from Bet Rivers. Take advantage of it. A week from Monday, when the Bears play the Minnesota Vikings on the 16th. My unimpeachable sources tell me Ben Johnson of the Lions, Brian Flores, the Vikings defensive coordinator, former Titans head coach Mike Vrabel, and assistant to Sean McDermott in Buffalo, Joe Brady, are the 4 guys the Bears are targeting right now. Those are the guys who they are most interested in pursuing first and foremost when they have the chance to start having those conversations. And if they do it behind people's backs, the NFL is going to have an issue with it because they wanted this stuff stopped. In fact, it's been 30-some years since a coach was allowed to accept a job elsewhere and then complete his assignment with his current team. And that was Bears head coach Dave Wannstedt, who was presented on the Monday or Tuesday in the off week before the Dallas Cowboys had to go to work against Buffalo for a Super Bowl. And he was allowed to rejoin the Bills or the Cowboys and coach in that game. That was the reason he had to decide on the Bears. There were a couple of teams that came after him late, Seattle and Denver. The Giants and Bears were first in line, and George Young, the Giants GM at the time, wanted an answer fairly quickly. And Dave said, I don't have time for these 2 other interviews. I got a job to do with the Super Bowl. We gotta get to California and crash the Bills' next Super Bowl party. So he took the Bears job. And Did not live to regret it, but found life in McCaskieville rather cumbersome, especially when you start in 1993 and free agency is in its first year in the NFL, and the Packers are blazing the trail in the division while the Bears were getting my pot smoking buddy Todd Berger and Joe Kane, who was my steak eating buddy. And they were both great interviews, but not exactly lighting it up free agency. So once again, the four top guys for the Bears job: Ben Johnson, Lions offensive coordinator; Vikings DC Brian Flores; Joe Brady from the Bills; and Mike Vrabel, who is waiting for an opportunity somewhere, and some think he'd be best served at Ohio State if he's a smart guy with the college transfer portal. He wants nothing to do with coaching at the college level. And speaking of which, I got to get my butt to South Bend for the Notre Dame-Indiana game. That's right. I attended the first ever, you're happy for me, I know, the first ever playoff game in the state of Indiana when Jim Mora's Colts hosted the Tennessee Titans, late 90s. I think it was Peyton Manning's second year in the league, and the Titans won that game. The Colts had a very curious special teams trickeration that didn't work that day, but that was a fun day. And I remember running into Archie Manning at the famous St. Elmo's Steakhouse after the game, the first playoff game ever in the state of Indiana. And I was there at the Hoosier Dome, later referred to as the RCA Dome, and now it's Lucas Oil Stadium. I got to get to South Bend to see the Fighting Irish take on the upstart Indiana Hoosiers in the first ever college playoff. I think it's kind of cool. They don't play often. In fact, I think they've only played a couple times. I was at the first game I think they played when Jerome Bettis was toting the mail for the Fighting Irish. That game in South Bend in the early 90s. I want to say 92. It might have been 93. But, yeah, I got to get there. I have to say I was there. When things happen in the great state of Indiana, Danny Mac's got to be there. I'm on the ground floor of this stuff. I'm Danny Football. Why wouldn't I go to Notre Dame Stadium to see Coach Siggs and the Hoosiers try to take care of business and advance to the second round of the first ever college playoffs in the round of 12? Thank you very much for listening to this post-game edition of the Danny Mac Podcast. Steve Young is expected to join me for more Bears conversation tomorrow. Probably won't drop until late in the afternoon, but Monday late afternoon we should have a Steve Young interview for you. If not, my apologies in advance. Thanking Randy Merkin, who gets all the guests for the Mac Podcast. Sam Michael is my executive producer. Adam Delavitt, Baby Capone, runs the show for the operation, and we're assisted by Troy Mocker and Alex Pastor. Thank you for listening. The Bears fall to 4-9. Losers in Santa Clara, 30 miles south of San Francisco. Mark it on your maps, millennials. Thanks for listening.